Hey guys, and welcome to a new podcast. This time also my intro is in English because so the people in Tanzania and all over the world can watch it and understand. You will have the subtitles in German if you're speaking German only. So very welcome to this podcast. This time I talked with Baba Gregory from Mvimwa Abbey. He works in Sumbawanga as a parish priest. He studied for 4 years in America and so has a little bit of an understanding about the Western culture, what I think is very interesting to talk with him about African culture and Western culture, which I do in this podcast. I hope I will see him again, but we touched some of the topics that I'm mostly interested in, such as psychological issues of people here in Africa and also my perspective on psychological issues in Europe and the difference to Africa. So be prepared for a very nice talk. I hope you enjoy it. Leave me your likes and follow this channel, and I hope to see you again. Thank you and goodbye. So thank you very much, Baba Gregory, for taking your time.
Yeah.
What is the topic that right now is taking most of your, your attention?
Oh, okay. So when I finished my theological studies, of which when I was in school, I based on most of the time learning about theology and what God wishes us to do, I find myself that right after priesthood, I'll have to work with the people of God. And they have many problems, including theological problems and psychological problems. And I found that psychology is closely connected to theology at some points. And so I decided to push myself to learn more about what psychology says about behavior. And I came to the point, identify a lot of things that I think I should concentrate on them. So right after priesthood, I based reading books about psychology, especially clinical psychology. And I was impressed by Jordan Peterson. He's the professor of psychology from Canada, and he has a lot of things in YouTube. So I was following them, and I read a lot of his books and his sayings and his teachings. And generally speaking, I read a lot about psychology nowadays.
So it's kind of a combination between the spiritual life, so believing in God and trusting in God and letting go, but also taking your responsibility with what is going on with your soul, with your psyche.
Exactly. And you know, the thing is, there is a connection and the relationship between what I know about God and how do I know about God. What I live my spiritual life. Why I live my spiritual life is a theological question, but how I live my spiritual life might be also a psychological concern. Yeah, because, for example, when you need to pray, you have to incline yourself to God. How do you incline yourself? You have to concentrate to the spiritual world. And you have to believe, you have to keep in your mind that during doing that, you have to use your brain. You have to use your instinct. You have to use your intuition. You have to use your senses. So all these four are psychological patterns of a human person. And so I found that even when we pray, we also use psychology because we have to create a kind of abstraction about God and then concentrate and then now raise our hearts to Him.
So thank you very much for the example. I think it's very important to use examples that give us an idea of concrete situations. And reminds me, so this bridge between psychology and theology reminds me of this spiritual, I would say, maybe leader from America. Maybe you've heard of her. She's very famous. Marianne Williamson, I think it's her name. And she was very engaged with this Course of Miracles. Is a book that has been, it's said that it's been dictated by God. So it's kind of a spiritual movement. And Marianne J. Williamson, she said that what is not psychologically sound, which is not good for your psyche, is not spiritually sound. Can you agree with that?
I would have some ideas about that. Maybe I would not be straightforward in the same line of thought with that author. But what I can say is there is a relationship. There is a relationship because a human person who lives in a physical life is the one who has to lift up their heart to God. So there must be a relationship between how you live and how you approach God. And that comes right away to the question you've just asked. So I think there is a kind of relationship, although I haven't dived maybe deep to deal with that completely.
So I'm very curious about many things, how you see the Catholic Church, how you see spiritual things, and I see that you know a lot, but I'm also very concerned or interested about your opinion about the African Church, because how I see it, I think you have a deep understanding for the Western civilization because you've been in America for some time. But then also, of course, you have a deep understanding for the African culture and church. So I would like to go deeper in terms of that. And when you tell me that you make this combination between spirituality and theology and psychology, I'm wondering, do you have brothers or sisters here in Africa that share these interests for those two concerns?
Yeah, they share. A lot of people nowadays share the same interest, but they couldn't directly speak. But when you just realize the way people live, you can find this kind of relationship. And it's true that I've been in the United States for almost 4 years, and my ethnicity is in Africa. And I had many opinions before I went to the United States in terms of how people live their faith. And right after I was there, I had an opportunity to experience a different culture and different opinions about faith, but the same line. I thought maybe American people do not concentrate on praying and doing good deeds, but that was not something I saw when I went. They pray a lot, they are kind, they are very nice, they are Christian, and they manifest the Catholic identity. The same apply to Africa, and they have their own culture, but they preserve the Catholic culture. It's like in Africa, we also have our own culture, and we have our problems that are social problems, and these problems are now being solved by social systems, church systems. But in Africa, it is evident that our life, which is community-based life, based on sharing. And so when the Catholic Church was coming to Africa, it adapted the lifestyle of Africans, and that was the easiest way to spread Christianity. And now Christians in Africa, especially maybe in Tanzania, they have this so-called inculturation. They take a lot of their traditions to the Catholic Church, and they find it familiar, and they find the church as a home where they can submit their problems and get solved.
So it's very interesting because what I see, I think, is a strength of African culture, that there is this community-based.
It is.
And it's something that we're missing incredibly in Europe, because there is like this, I think there's this term, in German it's called Verinselung. In English is I think alienation or something like that.
Yeah.
So everybody becomes like a singular thing, a person who's just like doing circles around himself.
Of course.
And I think many of the psychological issues that we face in Europe is due to that.
Exactly.
So now I'm trying to find out, or I would like to hear a little bit from you, what the psychological issues here in Africa are, if you can see. them, and how they are different from what I see in Europe with this alienation.
Yeah. And the other term that I can use is like individualistic kind of life. So I had my good friend in the United States, and in one of our conversations, he shared with me that he has been living for 18 years without even seeing his neighbor, even talking to them. So this is the kind of individualistic kind of life. And for them, it's a bit part of their culture. But it does not prevent them from being kind. They're very kind, even though somebody has his own house and his own family. But when they come out, they're very kind, talking with people. They meet, help each other. That's very nice. We don't have that in Africa. We have a kind of community life. So we share a lot of things. And this decreases the social problems at some points. Because if you have your own personal problem, you can easily share it to your neighbors in Africa, but not in Europe or in the United States, as my experience. The only issue in Africa, it's inadequate exposition to knowledge, different knowledge. So this create a kind of psychological problem, being unable to solve to some of very normal issues. So you can find a person is like static in some of, not dynamic, with one opinion or few opinions, and this is because our system of education doesn't allow us to be exposed to a lot of knowledge comparing to Europe and maybe to the United States. So that is one of the psychological issues which I found. And the good example is, take an example, if a mother has a child and a mother is uneducated, so she will not be able to raise her child in an education manner, like to have some important knowledge. You know, there are these important knowledge a human being should have. So you find a child doesn't have that, and she grows like that, or he grows like that. So when they grow up, they have this permanent psychological problem of not being in educated way on that issues. That is the problem. So they just like being with limited knowledge.
How do you as a priest in Sumbawanga, taking care of a parish, being responsible for the let's say souls here, how do you face this issue? How can you support the people?
So one of the problem I found here is that people are not sure of themselves, even of their abilities. Now you can realize that this is a psychological problem that has been there since maybe they're in their childhood. So they are not being exposed to the knowledge of being able to accomplish difficult things. And when they grew up, they just be able to do a light work, not like those strong works or difficult work, and to succeed. So what we have to do as pastors is to empower them with the knowledge of ability that you are able. Although maybe at some point of your life you have been struggling in accomplishing things, but you can. And now you have to make some changes. There is a nice book about atomic habits. It is written by James Clear, and he says, when you need to make a big changes, you have to start with the small changes, like in a very small matters. So we try to empower our people to think about that and maybe to practice, so that at some point they can be able to be strong as we wish.
Thanks for watching so far and taking your time. My name is Gabriel. This is my podcast about spirituality, especially Christian spirituality, and also the things that come across with it, like psychology, philosophy, and sociology. I hope you enjoyed this channel. Please leave your like and maybe a comment, and stay tuned. I'm very surprised by your answer. This never came to my mind, that it is also a topic of maybe self-confidence. Never thought about that. And it moves me because I feel like it's something that I think everybody knows. At least people who think about themselves, they will realize that they have some kind of issues with self-confidence, I would say, because we're human. I think it's also maybe a tool that is good for our souls, because then we stay sensitive towards each other.
Yes.
So I feel a lot of sympathy towards the people when they struggle with that, because I know from my own biography.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also thinking about history in Africa, and it comes to my mind that you have a long history with colonialization. And I'm wondering, could this be one of the reasons that Africa has a long history with suppression of European countries as well? Is this one of the reasons that you struggle with self-confidence as well, cultural-wise?
Yes, that might be one of the reasons. Yeah, it's because when somebody has to make decision on your behalf, and most of the time you don't have the opportunity to do that, the result is you'll not be able to be confident in a lot of things. So the colonialism has some effects and some contribution on that. It's because right after colonialism, like many Africans now remains by themselves, but at that point they had already affected by that system and they couldn't like improve. And adding to that, the system of education also was not like there to make sure it changes their mindset. So we have been raised in that mindset, our ancestors, and up to this moment, that might be the problem. And self-confidence is a psychological problem. When you have a least amount of dopamine, oxytocin, and I think the two are very important. Dopamine and serotonin. Serotonin is the hormones concerning about mood, to have a mood of doing something. So if historically that mood has been destroyed, you'll not be able to accomplish a lot of things. So there is this problem, self-confidence and adding to procrastination.
Can you see improvements in your work?
I'm just at the beginning. I'm trying to find a good spectrum on dealing with those problems. But as far as I believe, everything will be okay at time, because, when you have to make some changes, as James Clear says, you can't like succeed in one single year. You have to create a kind of culture, a permanent behavior, a repeatedly behavior, so that people will be able to adapt, and at some point it will become part of them. And Jordan Peterson says, if you do something which is informative and skillful, it increases information, a lot of information in you, and it's skillful, it increases skills. And in your body, the new gene code are being created, and then you get a new kind of part of you. And that is how we make a new behavior. So it takes time. But I believe it will be okay, because, when you solve some problems in a certain community, that should be like an experiment, which takes time.
Just a few weeks ago, on the 25th of May, Pope Leo shared with us his new encyclica, which is a very, very the highest rank of authority in writings of the Holy Seat. Even though I haven't read it yet, I started though. I'm reading and hearing more and more about artificial intelligence and how it will be a challenge for us, humanity. And also Pope Leo, as I've understood, points out that we have to be very careful to leave it not in a few hands of powerful people, such as Americans, tech industries, who can then influence the whole world with their power. And when I hear this, I can see that countries like Tanzania or a continent like Africa, they will be on the very, very back seat, on the last place to profit from this. And the power will be not in the hands of people like like you or people in Africa and also in Europe, I think we have to be careful. So when you talk about taking time and giving them or allow them to be successful and to build own self-confidence, I'm also thinking maybe you're running out of time because things are changing quickly now. What is your opinion on the development of artificial intelligence?
I don't think if we're running out of time because in psychology there is these things called neuroplasticity. That is the personal, that is the ability of a brain to increase its power and its working capacity. Neuroplasticity. So it can increase or it can decrease. And so when you solve a psychological problem, you have to trigger that neuroplasticity to be active so that if a person is not able to feel like he's self-confident and he can increase some confidence, when you give him psychological teachings and some practice, the neuroplasticity become more active and some of neurons start to flow rapidly and it gives confidence to that person. So psychological treatments needs time. The only problem of artificial intelligence is it destroys the innate capacity of a human person to do things. It's because AI assists a lot of things. It doesn't show you how to do, but it gives you a work done. That is very big problem. It's because now you are not needed to use your brain to formulate things. The AI can do that for you. You just have to give the information that you would have maybe given and then use your brain to generate a kind of ideas. But nowadays, now you just need the information and the AI will work for you. That is very bad because when you do that, you destroy your self-confidence too. Because when you're out of AI, you will not be able to do anything, even in writing or even in saying. Nowadays, people also use some interviews. They are preparing interviews by AI, so they don't show their original capacity. They use these digital capacities. A human person doesn't need digital capacity, because we have been created to have a capacity to do things. So this is the problem of AI, I think.
I think that I agree with you in all those points. I have to reformulate my question because what I want to share with you is an emotional concern. So I see I'm living with you here in Tanzania with the brothers from Mvimwa since 4 months, and I see the beauty of the land, the country, the culture, the people, and I feel like we have to be so careful that this is not going to be mistreated I just feel sorry that because there's a gap, in my opinion. There's a huge gap in education, in development, and now we're being run over by AI. Nobody's prepared for it, I think. Where is Africa? Where is Tanzania? Where are the people in Kate going to be in maybe in only 2 or 3 years? So this is my concern. What can we do to I don't know, to find a balance maybe between development in the world and the gap there and the people here in Tanzania?
Basically, I think that is the fundamental question, but it is difficult, to provide an individual opinions because the problem has to be solved with the system. So we have the government, we have education system in our country, and we have social bodies that work with social things. And I think those have to be responsible for what is going on. And the government has to put right there some good policies that will preserve morality, that will preserve even a kind of a system that is very good for the growth of a cognitive growth, even, overall growth of our generations. So it is difficult to respond, individually, because you can have some plans, but the government has its own policies which are contrary to what you believe might be the solving problem things. Yeah, so that's the problem. But I think the government and all other organizations should work together to make sure we create a good future of our country and of our rural societies like Mvimwa and nearby villages.
So we've talked now almost a half an hour. I think it's good to come to an end for now, but I would like to continue with you because there's so many things I would like to learn from you, how you perceive, again, the culture of Africa, how you perceive theological issues, also what your thoughts are about Catholic Church, many things, also about, I see the rule of Benedict here on your desk, which is something that I'm very fascinated about, so I would like to learn about your opinion on that as well. So please continue. Let's continue the remaining time I'm here. But for the end, my last question, or one of the last questions, is what is one of the projects that are now in your focus as a Benedictine monk, maybe, but also as a parish priest?
Oh, thank you for that question. Now, since I came here and being here as the assistant parish priest, I'm trying to learn more about the problem of the people in terms of spiritual problem, social problem, psychological problem, and find a way to try to help them solving those problems. But my project is to create a kind of Benedictine lifestyle in this parish, because I'm a Benedictine monk and there is a lot of treasures in Benedictine spirituality and Benedictine life at large. So I'm trying to put some Benedictine values to my parishioners, like being good, being kind, being hard worker, and a lot of things. It is my wish that this parish can be more Benedictine, and that could be one of the difference between a Benedictine parish and a diocesan parish. So that's the big project currently.
Please, for the end, as a little dessert, can you give us a spiritual, maybe as a prayer or something, a little treasure of the Holy Benedict to share with us for the end?
There is this one statement from Saint Benedict says, "Ut in omnibus glorificantur Deus," that in all things may God be glorified. So whatever Saint Benedict was doing aimed at glorifying God, and that is our charism. We have to serve the Lord with gladness.
I hope this podcast is in that way of glorifying God.
And that's true. Yeah, that's very true. And I'm glad to have you. You have been with us and we appreciate your presence.
Yes, thank you very much, Father Gregory. Thank you for taking your time. And I really hope we have the chance to speak again. There is so much to talk about.
Yeah, I can't wait for you.
Thanks for watching so far. I hope you have enjoyed the talk. Maybe you have learned something about the topics that we've talked about. And yeah, maybe we'll see us again with the next talk with Baba Gregory. I hope to see you soon. Leave me your comments, leave me your likes, and follow this channel. See you again. Take care. Bye-bye.